everyone, and welcome back to another video on Eleanor's restoration, and in this one I'm going to be getting the rear subframe on. A lot heavier to move now. Okay. The casters on the pallet have snapped from under me, obviously the weight of that, so luckily it didn't end in disaster, but it means I'm now going to secure this with axle stands and get this in a position so it's going to be safe to work on the back end. So the front wheels are now on the skates, still got the half working pallet with wheels on. I'll fix that once that's off because that's a good little portable device for my next project. And I'll take you to the back of the car just now. So the back of the car, subframe ready to go, and I'm going to give it a clean the same as I did the front one, just to get all the dust and grime off from storage. And I can then get this under, and I need to check a few things. I'll check all the brake pipes and things. I just need to double check the handbrake cable and things like that, so everything's as it should be before I go on. I'll do that off camera, so when I come back to you next I'll be ready just to get this on. To make my life that a little bit easier, before I look at putting the subframe in, I'm going to get some paint on some of the areas I'll not get into once the bolts are in place. So again, I'll show you with the little camera, but the area around here where the trunnions come in and attach to the boot, and the area up here where the shock absorber comes in, once the bolts are on, I'm not going to get underneath those tiny areas where the bolts are with the paint, so I'm going to need to just do it just now. So I basically went around with some seam sealer, touched it up because the last stuff I wasn't happy with, so I've got rid of that, got some new stuff on. Then I'm going to let that dry. It's got acid etch underneath it. I'm going to put epoxy on it and then some red paint, so that basically when the subframe goes on I can cover that whole area and I don't have to worry about painting that bit, and the bolts will look nice against the contrast of the paint. The rest of the boot, I've still got a few things to do in here, but that's a later video. I've got welding that I couldn't reach before while the jig was in here. I've got some bits to tidy up that I'm not happy with, so that's the future. This is now. So yeah, off camera I'm going to go and get all this areas prepped, but like I say, I'll do a before and an after on the little camera. So in the previous videos where I put the battery cable in, I thought I was being efficient doing it while it was on its side, but it turns out that was wrong because it just gets in the way of the rear subframe. This end is crimped on here, so it would have been easier if this just came off, pull this out, put the subframe on and put it back through. It doesn't. So what I've had to do is I've had to undo it from the front subframe, undo it from the channel underneath and just pull it through and get it out of the way. And to be honest, I'll not put it back in until all of this is painted because it just gets me access in here. So the rubber bung is on this side, and once that's through, the rest I'll just pull through. As I usually do in my videos, I cover any mistakes I make as well, so that anyone else doing them can do it different. I'm going to be using the same system with the two trolley jacks and the motorbike stand to get it going up at a square bit. So basically this is the fitting kit here. I'm going to put copper grease on each one of these, go around with the small camera and show you where I'm doing all this, and yeah, let's see how well these line up. Bolts that I will be attaching are one here, same on the other side. Those attached to these trunnions here. See the shorter bolt at the front, longer bolt at the back. The heel bore bolts, 2 here and 2 on the other side, and again the trunnion, the bolts go through here. Make sure these, because they will have flicks in them, you can tighten them, they can move that way and that way. Make sure these are straight when you're putting them up. And it's just a case of getting them lined up using the jacks, and fingers crossed they all line up. Come with me under the car. I'll show you the problem I was having. So the pallet, again, in theory was a good idea, but it was hitting off the battery tray, which is meaning this bit here wasn't getting as far up to the holes. So when I was getting to these bolts here, they weren't lining up exactly. Not to say they will just now, because I've not tried them yet, but this end was dipping. So when this was dipping, this is hitting this kind of at an angle. So I'm hoping now that that's straightened up here, and now that I can get some bolts through here, I can get them all finger tight and hopefully get some lined up. The other issue I've still to get around, and again, I don't know if this is an aftermarket subframe or just the trunnion needs moved, but when the bolt goes in here, it's very tight to this bracket here, so tight it catches and it can't turn. So again, yeah, I'm going to need to get around that once I get to even getting this out, because obviously the screwdriver on this side and the other side is holding it in place just now. None of the threads are on yet, so I will continue. So it's getting them lined up for this one, but the trunnion here is a bit squint, so I just need to put a bit of pressure on this bit here to then get the bolt through. There is a little bit of give because of the bush here, but it is also quite tight, so yeah, finger tight until I can get the other side and some of the other ones on. Right, finger tight. I am going to go away and fight with the heel board ones, and I'll come back, hopefully not too long. The 8 bolts that bolt the subframe to the body. The 4 here, well the 2 here and the 2 on the other side were the ones that gave me the most problems, and I knew they would because they have before. So basically I had to walk away the other day. I ran out of time and I was trying to rush things, and I've learnt before, when you're trying to rush and it's not working, just walk away and come back. So I did. Came back today, clear fresh head, no time pressure, and 2 hours later, so probably about 3.5 hours in total for 3 bolts. You gotta love classic cars. But they're all in. It just took a bit of time lining up. You're trying to line up and thread in bolts blind and try to manoeuvre a heavy subframe, which is my fault because I wanted to build it up before I put it on, so yeah. It's on. I've got them all torqued up. Now there's no torque settings in the Haynes book for these, so when there's none for that I usually go by the kind of guide I've got with the size of bolt. Now the size of torque for a 5/16 bolt is 25 Newton meters, so I've went for 25 Newton meters on these 2 and the other side. And for the 4 in the boot, the small one here, the longer one here, these are the same size of bolt, but they're nylock nuts which put up a bit more resistance, so I've taken the 25 Newton meters and I've just added 2 Newton meters, so these are done up to 27 Newton meters, and they're all torqued, all good to go. I can now move on to the shock absorbers. Onto the shock absorber, which is the same as the front one, just OEM stock. So, straightforward, one bolt goes through the tower strut there, the other bolt goes behind the radius arm here. Washer either side to hold it in, bolt on, tighten them both and that's it. The only thing you have to be careful with, because this isn't attached at the moment, it's dropped. And when you lift it up, you see it lifting up, you need to make sure that the trumpet, or the high-low, whatever you've got on here, is seated in here. Now I'll get the small camera to show you. So basically it has to be seated in here, it has to be seated in here. If it's not, it'll not lock properly and it'll only come so high, so you just need to take care with that. And when you lift it up, it then seats. But with the small camera, you can see, or can you see? Probably not, it's too dark. This end here has to go right in there, and it has to locate. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a trolley jack just to lift it enough to hold it in place so it's not going to come out. Once the shock absorber's on, that'll hold it at a certain height, so and let's see how it should be. So I find it easier putting the bottom one on first. There's a lot more manoeuvrability once you've got this in, just because the subframe gets in the way pretty much. as always, copper grease. Especially down here, it's in a pretty nasty place. So one either side, basically to keep the bush from coming out. You'll see the washer here. This sits there, flat bit on top, and the nut on top of that. Round bit here, washer. He's tightened up and torqued. The bottom one, as with the rest, we're going to torque to 27 Newton meters, 25 for the bolt and 2 for the nylock nut. What I found on the other side is this was spinning when I was turning the top bolt, and you have to be careful not to squash the rubber on this side or that side, otherwise it just it affects the suspension, the ride. So I'm going to get to a point where I can just feel the rubber start to stretch slightly, and that's when I'm going to leave it the same as the other side, then that way both sides are the same. Yeah, I'm happy they're both the same tightness now, they're both tightened up. I can now get this wheel back on. The last bit to connect up here, for now anyway, is the brake pipe. So the brake pipe I done a few episodes ago is to connect to this union here. And I'm hoping I've given myself enough to bend it round without kinking it. As you can see, there's not much working room. trying to create a bend that goes round so I'm not putting too much strain or basically blocking the root here. I think it's going to be enough, but just and no more, pretty much. I think I need to just bend this slightly. As I said before, the copper pipe is a lot easier to manipulate than this alloy. Good to go there. There we go. She's standing on her own four wheels, no supports, skates, but that's for movement. But for a long time I've been waiting for this moment, I really have. It was a lot of work, it's hard doing it on your own, it's going to give you issues along the way, but it's so rewarding, it really is rewarding. There's still a few things I need to do for the rear subframe obviously. The handbrake cable I'll get done, attached in here. The battery cable's still to be done, but I'm going to get areas painted before I do that. Makes sense rather than trying to mask something else up for painting. So in terms of what I want to get done for the rear subframe just now, it's done, and as I say, it's been a lot of work. So yeah, I'm really pleased. I want to keep bashing on with Eleanor, but I've got a few other things in the pipeline as well that I need to deal with, and hopefully all going well I can bring that to the channel very soon for you, so stay tuned for that. But for now, I'll end that one there. I'll say thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!